Now, troops of Operation Hadarindaji have killed 3 terrorists and also rescued 6 kidnapped victims in Sokoto State. The Nigerian Army disclosed this in a Friday statement, saying the development followed an onslaught against terrorists. The offensive clearance operation, which took place at Bauni Village and Bauni Forest, led to a gun duel that lasted for several hours, the army said. The statement said the troops' aggressiveness and firepower superiority forced the terrorists to abandon their hideouts and flee in disarray. It added that 2 AK-47 rifles, 19 magazines, ammunition, 2 Dane guns, motorcycles, radios, and other items were recovered from the terrorists. The district head of Sokoto town in Ibi local government area of Taraba State, Ali Hakimi, has been killed by bandits. Hakimi was killed after he was reportedly attacked in his palace at Sokoto town at about 12:30 a.m. on Friday. A resident of the town, Bello Adamu, told the Daily Trust that the deceased was the brother of the chief of Sokoto chiefdom. Adamu said the bandits had launched several attacks across the chiefdom and abducted several residents recently. He noted that attackers escaped into the bush after killing the district head, adding that everyone in the area is living in fear. The state's police command is yet to confirm the incident at the time of filing this report. Now, governors of 19 northern states are meeting in Kaduna to discuss the issues that affect the region. This is the first time that the new governors are meeting since they came into office on May 29, 2023. The meeting, which is being held at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim Government House in the Kaduna State Capital, was chaired by the governor of Gombe State, Inuwa Yahya, with Governor Obasani as the host. The report.
Begin by paying special tribute to the people of Tudunbiri community who are victims of the tragic bombing incident by the Nigerian Army during counter-terrorism operations. We all witnessed the level of devastation wrought upon them by the tragedy. Our thoughts and prayers are with all the affected families and the entire people of Kaduna State. I would like to assure you that all the 19 northern states governors are working collectively to ensure that the tragic incident is thoroughly investigated with a view to compensating the victims and taking corrective measures so as to prevent future occurrence. We believe that more needs to be done to bring an end to the menace of kidnapping, banditry, communal clashes, and terrorism bedeviling our region. Security and development are intricately connected, and we must approach them collectively. Without security, there will be no development, because investors can only invest in an environment where their assets and resources are secure. Similarly, our people can only go to farms and pursue other economic livelihoods and other social activities when their safety is guaranteed. Therefore, addressing these security challenges is crucial to the overall development and well-being of our region.
Still in security, the Defense Headquarters has confirmed the killing of 4 notorious terrorist commanders in airstrike within the week. They are Machika Haro Muhammad and Ali Alhaj Alheri, popularly known or called Kachala Ali Kawaje. The Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, made this known in a statement on Saturday in Abuja. Buba said Machika was a top terrorist bomb expert and younger brother of a notorious terrorist Dogo Gide, while Haro and Muhammadu were specialists in kidnapping and assault operations. According to Buba, a synchronized strike between air and ground forces aimed at the same target on December 11th killed Kachala Kawaje, a renowned terrorist leader responsible for the abduction of the students of Federal University Gusau, Zamfara State. Buba, who noted that Kachala was neutralized in Munya local government area of Niger State, along with many of his foot soldiers, added that the strike carried out resulted in the killing of over 38 terrorist commanders and their foot soldiers, while 159 others were arrested. The Ogun State Police Command says it has rescued 7 persons abducted by gunmen in Fidowo area of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The police said the victims were rescued unhurt after 4 days of combing the area. The gunmen, numbering about 9, had attacked travelers along the expressway, abducting 7 of them, killing 1 and injuring others. A victim who refused to give his name for security reasons said the gunmen ambushed them on Monday amid intermittent gunshots. Giving an update on the kidnapping incident, the police public relations officer of Ogun Command, Omolola Odutola, said one of the kidnappers were arrested while all 7 victims were rescued unhurt. Odutola said the kidnappers were forced to release their victims after a 4-day onslaught by the police and other security agencies. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has labeled the World Bank an enemy of the country after the financial institutions asked the federal government to stop the subsidy payment of the petrol and raise the cost of the product to 750 naira per litre. In a statement, the Congress chairman, Joe Ajaero, criticized the World Bank's lead economist for Nigeria, Alex Sienet, for supporting the unwarranted recommendation during a presentation in Abuja and rejected an increase in petrol prices to 750 naira per litre, while accusing the World Bank of promoting policies that prioritize foreign interests over the well-being of the Nigerian people. The union advised the government to resist foreign influence in economic policies and prioritize the welfare of its citizens. The Supreme Court has upheld the federal government's appeal, challenging the verdict of the appeal court, which dismissed the charges against Nnamdi Kanu. In upholding the government's appeal, the Supreme Court held that Kanu must face the trial at the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court, in the judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim but prepared by Justice Garba Lawal, held that the Court of Appeal was wrong to rule that Kanu could not be tried again based on the illegality perpetrated against him by the federal government following the invasion of his home. Also, the court held that although the Nigerian government was reckless and unlawfully rendered Kanu from Kenya, such unlawful act has not divested any court from proceedings with trial. Justice Lawal said no Nigerian law was cited in the suit seeking Kanu's release on the grounds of unlawful abduction from Kenya. According to the court, at the moment, the remedy for such an action is for Kanu to file a civil matter against the act instead of removing the powers of the court to continue with his trial for alleged criminal charges.
The Supreme Court is the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court says represents the law. We respect it. We go by it. There is no other way. We had hoped that it would come our way, but it has gone the other way. It simply means that we have to go back to the High Court and get done with this quickly. We still have hope. We're not in despair.
By the grace of God,
yes, so
victory is assured.
Yes,
at the end of the day.
We will lose a little time. We still have to go back. That's all it means. But I'm very consoled by what the Supreme Court said, that he ought not to have been treated the way he was treated. His bail ought not to have been revoked. His home ought to have been invaded. All that is a consolation to us. So we have hope. Thank you very much.
You're watching news updates on Trust TV. Coming up, Imo residents decry increase in price of cooking gas. This and more after the break. Stay with us.
Should I keep quiet? And then we kept saying, can't we teach these people basic business, not hustling? Teach our people entrepreneurship, not hustling. Go to China, Guangzhou, different districts. They can turn fair. Am I saying what you don't know?
So this about this thing.
Yeah, but this time around we are talking about appointment of ministers, where there is an express provision in the constitution as regards that.
Let's come to appointment. You know, it is the status of FCT that the constitution has made is too complicated for people to understand.
However, if you are to go backwards and do a kind of audit, you will be shocked to find that the resources so far expended on the SDGs far outstrips the achievements face to face.
Most of the time when you are involved, it's difficult for you to draw back and have a holistic view. Because what? Sentiment would always come to play, because all of us need, definitely, I had, like I told you yesterday, I was 100% convinced that you cannot say you are qualified without bringing any document.
This is Africa Update on Trust TV. I am Ayuba. Thanks for joining.
Rest of Africa, stand and make sure that our people understand.
And the story of the OAU can be told and retold. It cannot be denied that it made a contribution to the process of decolonization of the continent in many ways.
Ethiopia is where it is today in no small part because of the tireless efforts of the African Union and the wisdom of its deeply held belief in the principle of African solution to African problems.
The bulk of African countries were under colonial rule in 1945. So they did not take part in the negotiations that established the Bretton Woods institutions.
But the African continent is not included in the South-South relations. And therefore, our objective is to ensure that the Africa Free Trade Agreement is actually implemented. And the BRICS countries, all of them are trading with Africa.
And we know that there are resources in Sudan, especially in Darfur. And that is why Darfur has been on the front burner for a long time.
So Cameroonians are anxious, Cameroonians are impatient, Cameroonians are like, oh, many of the guys are not talking today. You can read it all over the social media.
Egypt has officially declined to accept fleeing Palestinians for fear that the more Palestinians you accept across the border into Egypt, the more trouble there may be for the country in the nearest and farthest future.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is News Update on Trust TV. Here is a recap of our top stories. Report you that troops kill 3 terrorists and rescue 6 kidnapped victims in Sokoto. And Northern governors meet on regional strategy for sustainable development. Now moving on to more stories, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has asked the National Assembly to approve the 17 billion naira appropriated for FCT administration in the 27.5 trillion naira 2024 proposed national budget. Wike made the appeal when he appeared before the joint session of the Senate and House committees on FCT in Abuja. The minister says that the 17.1 billion naira FCT allocation will address uncompleted projects and include new infrastructure development projects for the actualization of the Abuja Master Plan.
We have located
budgeted 17 billion. 17 billion. And we have itemized 5 areas where the 17 billion will be utilized. We talked about accountable funding for Greater Abuja Water, which is 5 billion naira. And of course, to continue with the project which have been abandoned since 2005, the Cultural Center Millennium Tower. Of course, the ongoing job of rehabilitation of the Federal Secretariat, which was awarded to Julius Berger. And also, number 4, to continue with the completion of the Vice President residence. And then, of course, settlement of residential and office accommodation for international organizations in FCT. It's self-explanatory. 17 billion is what's allocated to us for national budget. So I don't know what to say again, but to say that, help us to pass it. Help us to pass it. And also help us that when it is passed, it is released. So I hereby submit to you that is what we have. Thank you and God bless you.
Residents of Owerri, the Imo State capital, have decried the consistent rise in the price of cooking gas in the state. Trust TV's Ajibade Praise, who visited some of the gas stations in the metropolis, reports that the residents are seeking alternative as the cost of living surges with each passing day. The report.
Among the gas stations visited is this one located at Aba Road in Naze, Owerri North local government area of the state. The price of gas at this location has risen to 960 naira per kg as against the 560 naira price it was sold a few months ago. Residents who are lamenting that the increment is too high added that since economy is already not favorable, the hiking price of cooking gas is like adding salt to injury.
In fact, everything is high in Nigeria, both the cost of living, commodities, everything are high. So they should reduce the price, and it's affecting everybody.
We've been enjoying the low cost of gas previously, but recently it has been hiked to 1,000 naira and above per kg. So it's so terrible.
It's when we start using gas, as of then, but things are not costly with them, so it's not easy for them to fill it and sell. It's also the same thing for us and them. So if they want to reduce the price, they should do it for us.
Though the management of the gas station refused to speak to us on camera when Trust TV called, one of the attendants who obliged us said they only sell at the price they are instructed to. Like others, he decried the hardship, saying that they also get the product at exorbitant rates at the depot.
It's bad government now. It's not us that pay the price, it's government that pay the price. If not before, customer used to feel here, but now, customer is not feeling here again. Now you can see few people here. They are not seeing crowd. If not before, you can see plenty crowd for here. This 960 is very hard for some people to buy it.
Many families are finding it very difficult, and it has caused some families to resort in using firewood, which is not the best option. So I think the government should know what to do about it. It's not good for us.
The price of gas is costly, like else, but everything is costly. If they want to know the price, they should.
While the residents decry hiking the product and look forward to a quick intervention from the federal government, they are not also happy with the current situation of the country, especially the hike in cost of living. Ajibade Praise, Trust TV News, Owerri.
In business, the African Development Bank says about $90 billion is lost to theft of public resources each year, a loss the body says has prevented Africa from reaching its full potential as a continent. Trust TV's correspondent Chamunda Beng reports that the AFDB says the losses incurred via theft of public resources and illicit financial flows, as well as corruption in the continent, has exposed Africa to volatile market prices and highly vulnerable supply chains. The report.
Corruption in Africa has stood in the way of the continent's growth, as theft of public funds has left very little for African nations to properly plan and budget for its citizens. This has affected Africa's human capital indices on many fronts.
African countries seem not to be budgeting enough for their citizens. Of course, that also harks back to the issue of revenue mobilization, but not only that. It's the conceptual framework behind governance that needs to be fixed. For example, Nigeria's budget per capita is one of the lowest in the world. Budget per capita at the federal level is about $165, which probably cannot do anything.
According to a recent report released by the World Bank, Nigeria has topped its debt list with $2.9 billion in fresh loans, while Tanzania came second with a $2.7 billion debt. Several developing African nations have been plagued with heavy debt, with a large chunk of its GDP set aside to service debt. The issue of debt has been subject to debate, especially in Nigeria, with arguments about the country's borrowing, the relevance thereof. The chief economist and vice president on economic governance and knowledge management at the AFDB, Kevin Urama, says over 21 countries in Africa are facing debt vulnerability, noting that urgent solutions are needed to prevent vulnerable nations from falling into crisis.
Because before you only start discussing countries' debt when they're already in crisis, or when they are near crisis, and then the IMF will do debt sustainability analysis and start creating the warnings that you are close to a debt challenge. And once you are there, it already creates a vicious cycle, because the cost of debt, the cost of capital will go up. Once investors begin to feel that you are likely to default, then the risk that they have to take in order to give you more capital to do both capital and recurrent expenditure in countries becomes higher. So you have what you call the Africa premium that countries pay in order to get capital to do development on the continent.
The issue of illicit financial flows, the AFDB says, is just one of the various economic challenges plaguing Africa as the continent faces budgetary issues, extreme debt, with several African nations spending over 50% or more of their GDP on debt servicing. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Away from Nigeria, Israel on Saturday mourned the death of 3 Gaza hostages killed when the troops mistook them for a threat, with the military expressing remorse over a tragic accident or incident that sparked protests in Tel Aviv. The Israeli army said Yotam Haim, Alon Shamris, and Samir El Talalqa, all in their 20s, were shot during operations in the neighborhood of Gaza City. The trio were among an estimated 240 people taken hostage during Hamas's October 7th raid into Israel, which also killed an estimated 1,200 people. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described their deaths as an unbearable tragedy. As news of the incident spread late Friday, hundreds of people gathered at Israel's Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv to call on Netanyahu's government to secure the release of 129 hostages still being held in Hamas-ruled territory. In sports, the Katsina United have called on fans of the club to rally behind the team ahead of their March 14 clash against Bendel Insurance. The chairman of the club, Kabir Lenlami Rimi, made the plea during a meeting with the football stakeholders in Katsina. Rimi assured that gates will be open free of charge for the game. He, however, advised the Chenji boy fans to be disciplined and show sportsmanship during the game to avoid infringing the law and order guiding the league. The encounter is scheduled for the Muhammad Diko Stadium on Saturday. Katsina United recently appointed Bala Abubakar as their new head coach. And with that, we wrap up News Update on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms and join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs, and documentaries. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thanks for watching.